Hello and welcome to Whisky Resource. This is Whisky Review number 16. It's a special one. It is St. David's Day, so as I'm going to get this completely wrong, Death Goyle Dewey Happins. So, St. David's Day. So, how are we going to celebrate St. David's Day in whisky? Well, we're going to be doing Welsh whisky. So, Welsh whisky, a lot of people would believe, is relatively new to the scene. However, they did have a thriving whisky industry over a century ago. It was actually in 1910 the final Welsh distillery shut down. It was mothballed, liquidated. And it wasn't until the 1990s that whisky was once again considered as an industry for the country, for Wales. So a lot of people think that, or they know of Penderyn as the kind of the Welsh whisky. That is kind of the case. However, there are actually three Welsh whisky distilleries. So it kind of started with, and I apologise for the pronunciations of this, Damil. Now Damil are based in Llandswy in West Wales, and they, back in 1992, commissioned Springbank to do the first organic whisky, the first single state, single origin whisky, an organic whisky, and Springbank did this commissioning for them and released some bottles. It wasn't until 2016 that Damil, apologies for the pronunciation, actually started with the distillery site of their own. So that's currently something that you can look at. There is a second distillery called Amber Falls, and that is in Abergwyngerin. Apologies, in Gwynedd. Apologies if I spelled that wrong. I said that wrong. So that was opened in 2017, and they're expected to release their first batch of whisky, 3-year-old whisky, this year. So that's the two, and the one that we're going to be focusing on today, Penderyn, they established themselves back in 2004. It was actually on St. David's Day in 2004 that Penderyn officially opened. Now, Penderyn do a range of single malts, and they do a range of other spirits, vodkas, I believe, and whiskey creams and that kind of thing. And go check them out if you've not actually tried any of the Welsh whisky. That's what we're going to be doing today, is this special St. David's Day version of the reviews. I'm going to be looking at Penderyn Welsh Gold, which is a Madeira finished whisky. So they've got a number of different variations of the gold, because this is the range. The Madeira is one of their gold whiskies. So they do a peated version, they do a sherrywood version, they do a portwood version, and of course they do this Madeira finished whisky. This was actually, I believe, the second bottle of whisky I ever bought when I started looking at whisky. And this was off a recommendation of a good friend who actually now lives down in Wales, and he discovered it and recommended it. I do like this bottle. It's down the side there. It's got the Welsh Gold engraved in, and on the other side it's got the Welsh or Cymru Welsh Gold engraved. It's quite a simple, clean looking bottle. Gold swoosh, simple label across the top. It's the box that actually provides most of the information. They've got a section in English and then a section in Welsh about it, and they've got a bit of taste and notes information. Now, they don't actually say on the bottle, I don't believe. Yes, they do. They do say so. So it's on both the carton and the bottle. They do say just here that it's non-chill filtered. Quite critical information, that, non-chill filtered. So the Penderyn Madeira finished whisky, it's a combination ex-bourbon and ex-Madeira cask. Now, if you look at their website, have a good look around, they actually tell you that their bourbon casks, a high proportion come from Buffalo Trace Distillery. They also say that a portion, not as big, but a portion comes from the Evan Williams distilleries as well as other bourbon places, but the high proportion is Buffalo Trace. So chances are this has been finished in ex-Buffalo Trace bourbon casks. It's then finished in ex-Madeira, and it's the Madeira that gives it the biggest influence on the tasting profile. So for those people that have never tried Madeira, and I've never had Madeira wine that I'm aware of, it's some of Madeira wine can be aged for nearly 100 years or more. It's a sweet wine, quite a desserty wine, so it lends itself quite nicely for cask finishing some whiskies. The Penderyn whisky draws its water that they use from the Brecon Beacons National Park, which is just an interesting fact for you. So the Madeira finish, as I say, it's non-chill filtered, it's 46% ABV. Does it have colour? Now, nothing on the website says anything about colour, nothing on the box, the packaging tells us it's got colour in it. Indeed, a quick look online, I'm unable to determine anything about colour. I'm just going to go back here and have a look at one place. Yeah, potentially looking at online at the retailers, it doesn't have colour, and if you do look at it, it is quite a pale colour. It's a non-age statement whisky, but I can't find a colour statement. So unfortunately, guys, at Penderyn, I do have to knock some points off for the fact that you don't mention colour. It would be good to know if it has any caramelizer to it, because it is a non-age statement whisky. To keep the colour consistent across batches is a remarkable thing to do without colour. So yeah, in terms of average retail price, it still sells for £38.52. Now, I tend not to talk about who the retailers are that I do me comparison prices with, but I will tell you, and this is going to be a break from my norm, that this in supermarkets has a standard retail price of £37. Now, when I do my average pricing, I don't look at supermarket pricing, because they are highly competitive. I tend to stick to the online whisky specialists. But £37 in supermarkets, so it's slightly cheaper than online. But there is one particular retailer, Sainsbury's, I've named them. Quite often they have this on promotion to £27 quite frequently. Certainly every few months that I've ever been in, it's been on £27 promotion, which, well, I'll tell you at the end of this review whether or not £27 is a good price for this. But that's what I paid. I paid £27 for it. So it has a value score on all of that as 93.19. So it's got a 93 value score. It's great. It's a great value for a non-age statement whisky. And there's kind of a bit of theme going on here from the two age statement whiskies I've done so far, the Glen Scotia double cask and now the Penderyn. They're hitting quite highly on their value scores because they're sitting at 46% ABV, non-chill filtered, and, well, we don't know about the colour, but the colour doesn't necessarily impact the value scores greatly as chill filtration and average retail price would, and such things. So we're going to go straight on to a tasting. I've got here my Penderyn, can you see that? Penderyn glass. I actually got this Penderyn glass when I was bought for, as a present, a Penderyn Welsh Gold tasting set. So actually, off the back of a miniature, a Penderyn miniature, I actually bought this. Now, before I start doing tastings, there it is. This is one of two Penderyn miniatures I've got. Now, this is actually going to be a prize. So what I want is, in the month of March that we're now in, I want my YouTuber subscriber level to increase. So if I can get it up to 100 subscribers by the end of the month, then one lucky winner is going to receive this. Okay, so all you need to do is subscribe to the channel I'm going to be popping a web form onto the website. In the notes to this video, in the description, I'm going to be putting a link to the web form, which allows you to put in a quick message and your YouTube username. As long as you tell us what your YouTube username is, and that you've subscribed, then I will randomly pick one person from the list of subscribers who filled in that web form, and I'll send you that bottle of Penderyn. Okay, so more about that in the description. So Penderyn Welsh Gold. It's sweet. Straight away it hits you, it's sweet. It's fruity. You can tell it's young. It's kind of got that youthfulness to it. It's almost got a grain whiskey element to it. Now it's not a grain whiskey. This is a single malt, but it does have that grain whiskey element to it. The fruit. It's orchard fruits, apple. Grapes. I'm getting grapes in that. Some kind of a berry. And a bit of spice, tiny bit of spice. Maybe a bit of spiced oak. But on the palate. It starts with fruity sweetness. Maybe apples, pears, grapes, fruity, honeyed, and then you get the burn of the alcohol hitting you as it starts to get spicy, and the spice is kind of cinnamon spice, honeyed cinnamon. It's, if I was to describe it, it's like a almost muted apple strudel. There's a little bit of maltiness going on there, just a tiny bit of maltiness. And pop a little bit of water in that. It is 46%, and there is a bit left in the glass there, so I'm going to be generous with the water. Now that's muted out some of that grain nose that I was getting. It's dulled the fruit and the sweetness. I'm getting more of a bourbon nose now on it. Some more oak influence. It's a more controlled sweetness now. It's not as intense. It's spicier. I think those cinnamon notes are giving away a little bit more to clove and pepper. It's a bit oily. It's a little bit bitter. It's got quite a good finish on it. And there's this other note that I'm getting, but I can't quite describe it. It could be some of the Madeira. I mean, a good tip, which, to be honest, I should be following more myself, is to try and appreciate how Madeira has impacted this particular whiskey. It'd be worth customising yourself to some Madeira. Now, I do that with port and I do that with sherry. I've not really reviewed, or haven't reviewed any sherry bombs. Yes, review one was the Glenfarclas, but that's not a sherry bomb. but to appreciate a sherry bomb, you really need to understand sherry and taste sherry. So I do have 2 different types of sherry, and then I think it's a Fino and Oloroso I've got, and of course port finish whiskies. I've got a few. I've got the Spear 10. I've not actually opened that up there, but I have had a sample of one before, and it is a nice port finish. But to appreciate the port finish, you really need to understand a bit of the port. So Tawny ports, ruby ports, the different aged ports. Appreciation of those goes a long way to appreciating the finishing on some of the whiskies. So a Madeira finished whiskey there. I really need to pick myself up a bottle of Madeira and have a glass of that, to understand the flavours that that's providing, to then appreciate this a bit more. It is a very enjoyable bottle. When this bottle gets close to finishing, I will be looking at replacing it. Now, I want to try more the Penderyn range, but unfortunately other whiskies jump in the queue. Just like I want to pick up Glenfarclas 15-year-old, but other whiskies have jumped the queue ahead of that, and I've yet to pick the 15-year-old up. So yes, it's a whiskey I'd look to buy. It's an outstanding whiskey that's come from a young distillery. I really can't wait for them to start producing some of the age statement whiskies. The only way you can get age statement whiskey would be to go to the distillery, I believe, and get a hand-filled bottle. That's going to be on my radar, I think, to do in the future. But I'm going to rate the Penderyn an 87 as an overall score. I think it is an outstanding whiskey. It just lets it down a little bit by not having an age statement for it, but I think it can be forgiven for that. It's only 16-year-old, the distillery, and I think they probably want to build up their reserves before starting to bottle age statement whiskies. But there we go, 87. And thank you very much for the St David's Day special. Dydd Goel Dwy Hapus. And remember, this miniature's up for grabs, so follow the description in the bottom for what you need to do to be able to win this. There it is.